reasons. I don't... Look! Why are you... Why is chat... What the heck? What's going on? Where's everything? All the alerts, everything. What the... Hi, Carol. Hi. I don't know. Look at everything. I have no idea. Wait, let me... Feet to stretch again. We have everything, right? Alerts, fit to... No, this is not... This should not fit to stretch. This should be centered. What do you mean I cannot do it? Oh, I cannot do it. But hi, people. How are you doing? Sorry for all of this. Where is center? Center to screen. Alright, we should also have the alerts now. Chat can also be bigger. How did you sleep, by the way, people? How are you all doing? Sorry if I'm fixing everything right now. I did not expect all this mess. You're free. Let me see if... It still lags. No, wait, JJ. It still lags if I'm playing Valorant. Why does it still lag if I'm playing Valorant? I used to be able to play Valorant when we were like in that hole in the mountains. Do you remember? Why I cannot anymore? I don't know. Wait, why is it so... Why? Training, yes, I wanted to, Ari. But I don't know if my graphic cards... I think that my graphic cards has problems. Currently has big problems. I think that my graphic card has big problems right now. Like, I cannot do anything anymore. Maybe better. No, not better. Yeah, Urgot, I wanted to go for Valorant. I did update a graphic card. Since, oh my god, if I can tell you something, let me get out of Valorant. So if I can suggest you something in your life, never ever update fucking Windows. Fucking Windows. I'm very sad. I'm extremely sad. I'm on another level. Why not? Because look at this. No, it's not just you that it's lagging. It's lagging also for me, but for no reasons. Because I used to be able to play every game. You don't trust me? Trust me, for real. When am I getting the new... Okay, between the 7th and the 13th of December, I should get the thing to make the computer work. I'm sad. I wanted to go for some Valorant today. I wanted to go for some Valorant, chat. I wanted to go for some Valorant. Super sad. I also changed everything. Good morning, Rico. So what are we doing today? That's the point. I don't know. I think that it's gonna lag also with League. Like all my settings are at the minimum. Do you have an unbootable USB to install Windows in 30 minutes? Wait, what? Reinstall GPU driver. No, that's the point. I know that is not Windows problem, but it's the problem that Windows updated. So then the graphic cards actually disappeared from my computer. Is the weird Windows game mode activated? But I never had any problem. Oh, my video did not upload yesterday? Oh. Such. I did download the right one. I actually asked Enk to help me out because I was scared of like not doing it right. Let me see. I wanna cry so much. I wanna cry very much. Contexto or not? Maybe it's that one. No, it should be everything alright on the Valorant side. Nvidia Reflex low. On NVIDIA, reflex low latency. Off. I have no idea what this is. Still. Oh, it's even worse. Uninstaller, restart and reinstall. You're talking gibberish to me right now. Pure sad chat. I wanted to show you my skill. Stop motion G is cool. I wanted to show you my skills. British. I wanted to show you my skill. I'm so sad. I'm very, very sad. I wanted to show you what I am capable of. What do you mean? Stop. Okay. What did I do? Oh, shit. Oh, I don't know if you still see me. Okay, no. What the fuck? Test manager. Okay. This is what I'm capable of. GPU. Yeah, Valorant is taking 74% of the GPU. Very high, the power usage. So I guess that's it. Wait. I think that the problem is like the graphic card is not installed very well. I'm putting all the quality to lowest. It's not that. It's not that. Trust, it's not that the problem. It's everything, it's at its minimum. Off. It's still very high. 67, 70, still 74. It's not a quality problem. It's like the GPU itself cannot. Valorant is not trash. Should I trash my computer? 74 is... Yeah, but look at this. When I open the Valorant, now I'm touching Valorant. And I'm not even playing. There we go. This is... Now I'm out. Like, when it's closed, it goes good. It goes good. I don't think that changes much. Look, I don't think that's the problem. What are we listening? No. No. Okay. You want me to share you the screen? It was the same with Somerville. It's a problem with the graphic card that is not well installed, I think. But I did install it. What's the name of, like, NVIDIA control panel, I think? The only GPU that you have is the NVIDIA. Yes, how many GPUs should I have? No, it's not a control panel. What is it? Can you tell me if this is the latest, wait. Can you tell me if, don't like my glasses, they're horrible. GeForce Experience, there we go. My version of the driver is 526.98. 526.98. That should be the latest one. I have to make sure that my... No. I should also be able to see which encoder it's using. It's using the NVIDIA. Okay, the stream is using the NVIDIA, right? But then, where is... Okay. Let me do that. Nvidia control panel. But that's where I was already. Okay, let me share the screen with you. Shit! Why do you look like this? Ah! Why do you look like this? Shit! Where am I? Where am I? Here, hi, hello. What the fuck? Where are you? Where did you go? Right here. My god, stop changing stuff. Oh, am I screaming? Is it bad? Wait. Sound. I also have to do the sound thing. Welcome in the stream of Help G Fix Shit. Is the wallpaper ingenious? I love it. It is already at 80. Don't complain about my voice. I'm screaming. Can I open performances? This one? Impostazioni grafiche. Graphic. Settings. Am I supposed to have this one on yes? Oh, what is that? Bexy! Oh, I have to restart that shit. Maxi, thank you so much for that. Ank, yes, yes, Ank. It lags with the games on. It lags with the games on. I don't know what's happening.
Hi. Hello. Don't stop doing this, G. Love you.
Love you too, Bexy. I really love you. I really, really do. What is the RAM? What is RAM? Does it... Wait. Hold on. Okay, let me remove some stuff. Let me remove some stuff. This one, I don't need it. This one, I don't need it. I need these. I need all of these. What is this song? I have so many videos in here. I want to keep them all. I don't want to remove them. They're like from the past. They're good things. They're nice things. Let's go for the size. What the fuck is this? Do you see how many? 9 millions kilobyte. Let me see. Let's see what. Okay, let's do this. It's gonna be a stream of cleaning my own shit from my computer. What is this? What is this? Me playing Valorant? What the fuck is this? Why do I have, of how many hours? Why do I have a 2-hour stream of me playing? Bro, that's fine. We don't need it. We don't need it. It's gone. What else is this one? Well, let me first see them. I'm scared of what they could be. And then, oh, this is a stream of The Sims. Should I keep them? Wait, the light was so fucking good.
No, not really.
The light was so good, chat. The light was so fucking good.
A surgery to her feet, right?
What was I doing to have such a good light? Oh, why is the alert so fucking big? Oh my goodness. Looney, thank you so much for that. Looney, thank you so much for that. Move it to another drive? No, I'm just gonna remove it. I didn't even know I had it, you know, so it's not that important. I don't need it. I didn't even remember that I had it, so it's not that important. Okay, I'm removing this one, right? I can upload it to YouTube into my. You know that I have a VOD channel, right? I'm just gonna be uploading that while we stream. That's such a pro thing. That's very normal, right? So I'm just gonna put it there, so it's saved there. I don't upload video, and then it's gone. Upload it. This. Let's go. It's how many hours? It's like 1 hour and 30 minutes. The Sims. That's fine. Next. No, it's not made for kids. Next. 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 Public. Publish. There we go. Gone. Done. That one's done. You like more of these glasses than the others? You have... What? For real? Okay, so this one is gone. I also have people... I know that I also have the thing that checks like... we're 92. We are at 92, by the way. Hi, Prof. Hello. Okay, we're removing this... Oh, wait, no. I have to wait for it to upload. What is this other? Why do I keep having this? Wait. Sinful! Chat. That's a new one, chat. That's a new one. That's a new one, Sinful. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you for you being here. I really, really do. Welcome in. Welcome in. Dude, that's not a memory. What do you mean that's not the memory? What do you mean that is not the memory? What are you talking about? That is... How do I... It's written memory. Memory equal RAM. Exactly. Disk equals space. No? Google Chrome? What the fuck are you doing, Google Chrome? What is this? Oh, this is the video now. 3 minutes left for that one. This is you. And this is my... Don't look at my emails. Let me just... Was there something weird? No. Let me just check if I doxed something weird. It's mostly scam and spams. Nothing. Okay. Cool. Let me close all the things from Chrome. Digital silicon. Chinese bots? Yes, me buying the Chinese bots. That's exactly what was it. Cecil, don't look at my emails. Don't look at them. And then, okay, now we're coolio. Now you can go back to check my computer. Wait. Cleaning my PC. I doxed myself. Done. Click on memory. It's OBS. Chat, it's OBS, of course. Then there is Chrome. Chrome, why the fuck do you hate me, Chrome? OBS to Giga, yeah, it's normal. OBS takes a lot of everything. Chat, I have one tab, and it's you. The other one is the video uploading. Okay, the video on YouTube uploaded. I can close it. I closed it. That's it. I have your chat. That's everything I have. Close Chrome entirely and reopen it. I'm closing. I cannot see you though now. So chill out. Don't say something mean about my cat, my dog, or my mom. You can say anything you want about my sister. Don't really care. Like, I love her, but she's dumb. Done? What about now? Your OBS is something that it's eating stuff. You should try to run with a complete empty set of scenes and only Valorant. We can do that. Are you ready to hold on to this? You ready? Ready? Hold it. Hold chat. Hold for yourself. Take your chair. Hold your chair. All right? Very close. Very close. Something weird is happening now, okay? Something very weird will happen. Hold yourself. Hold yourself. All right? All right? Ready? Hi. Sorry, I screamed too much. Hi. Hi. Let me also fix this one. Transform fit to screen. There we go. Nice. Nice. I don't need this one. What? I'm receiving... And now I open... You see. I'm opening Valorant right now. And this is how it is. I have two sources. The cam and the microphone. But now I open Valorant and this is how it looks like. Zico, I swear to God, you're writing to me on Valorant because you want me to give you attention? You should disable auto replay on Valo. Maybe it helps a lot as you do auto replay. It's not less laggy. It is not less laggy. Even without capturing it, as long as I touch it, you know? Auto record. Where the fuck is that? Thank you for the train, by the way. It is not less laggy. It is not. It was. Come on. It was not less laggy. Come on. You cannot say that this is less laggy. You cannot say that this is laggy. I'm not even playing. I just have it open. This is not less laggy. Digital, thank you for the 24 BDs. We don't have any alerts here. Yes, I have it, Eury. I have the less laggy than before, right? I have the graphic card, but I didn't have the element, like the one that is, don't gaslight me. I didn't have the, how is it called? The power? The power thing. So I am waiting for it to arrive so then I can mount everything. The alighting? I'm lagging. I'm not lagging less. Look, chat. This is not lagging less. Come on. This is not. Look at how I'm not. There was some stream. The what? The PSU. That's the one. That's the one. A tiny bit. Yes, it's not. But I used to be able to stream for like from the mountains. Do you remember? Next live freeze. I got us at 850. I got at 850. Yeah, exactly how it says. The questions up right. Trasferimenti molto test manager and check if the extension Chrome Pro is consuming too much memory. But it's not. And now there is. Now the situation. I cannot even show it. Let's go back to the previous one. It's still here. Still, situation is still the same. Still like this. I don't have a 2 PC setup, as you can imagine. My PC wants me... Oh, wait, what the fuck? CPU is 100%. Bro! Chill! What am I supposed to do when the CPU is at 100%? With OBS, clean the memory was at 60. So you think it's a memory thing? Think it's a memory thing? Like for OBS thing? OBS problem? Oh shit, do I have to update? Oh, I haven't done the OBS update since ages. Oh, I haven't done that. I need more RAM? What do you mean? Do I have to buy... Is the RAM those things that you put in the computer? Is it that one? I can get one more. Is it that one? Yes. Okay, Amazon. Let's get another one. Those are like the sticks, right? Get 2 more? Alright. Ballistics. I think that those are the ones that I got the last time. Ballistics 600 gigas. No, 16 gigas. The one that have colors. I want the same ones that I have right now. I don't want to change them. 16? Wait, what am I doing? I'm getting RAM. Am I not? Is it wrong? Do I have space for... Wait. Do I have space for more sticks? To be honest with you, I have no idea. To be honest, I have no idea if I have more space for sticks. How do I... Wait, let me... Where's my phone? I didn't even do the story saying that I'm live, by the way. Oh, shit. Oh, the video! Video, sorry, wait. It's video time. Let me... Sorry. We're not chilling. It's a video. You wanted to work? No, Kara, please work. Please work. Wait. I think that I have... Yes. I have 2 more spaces for 2 sticks. 4 RAM slots. 2 occupied. Perfect. Perfect. I have 2 more stick space. Devi controllare se hai spazio. Where? Devi controllare il max supportato dalla scheda madre. How? You have the space, but you need to buy the same model of the ones you already have mounted on. Oh, yeah? Wait, Mastro, hi! So what's the bounty from Games Week? I got a lot of snacks, but they're gone. I ate all of them. For many people, the bounty from Milan Games Week was sickness, but I got antibiotics because I'm cool. I'm not hurt. I'm not sick. If you buy new RAM, buy 2 per 16. But people are saying 2 per 8. Snacks are dangerous? Well, I was never hungry, so I was very much feeling very good. Are they inserted in the current position? What do you mean are they inserted in the current position? So 2 per 8. 8 is enough for Valorant. So then I will have 4 per 8. 4 per 8 sounds very fine, doesn't it? Do they sell them in sticks? Why do they sell the sticks in 2? Wait, let me PC. Let me get the name of the ones that are ready. Crucial Ballistics. Stop. Stop moving. Crucial Ballistics RGB. That's the most important part. RGB. That I don't even see my computer. The sticks. They're sticks. They just... I like the sticks because you just press them in, and that's very, really cool. Are they white or did I get the basic ones? They are white. Why did I get them white when my entire computer is black inside? RGB gives a lot of FPS. I agree. Why is it? It's cheaper to produce more low quality sticks. 2 per 6 are priced and 4 per 8. Alright, so then I'm gonna go for cheaper. Check the frequency of what? Of the ones that I have? I have no fucking clue. How do I see that? How do I see that? How do I know if they are? Child, this is such a very weird place to be. I made this order 2 years ago. I don't have it here anymore. Oh wait, should I go on Amazon France? Because I think that maybe Amazon Italy. I don't really remember if I got them with Amazon Italy or France. Task Manager. Check the frequency on Windows Task Manager. I am on Windows Task Manager. Let me close Amazon. Let me put it here. OBS as administrator, right? I have no idea. Are you? I don't know. I just listen. The last thing that I want to be is the that, oh my god, I have no idea, clueless kind of girl to give out that idea, but I genuinely have no idea. I genuinely have no idea. But how? Where am I supposed to find the Hertz details? Yes, no. Services. No. Performance. Memory. And here you see that you definitely... Oh, the 206... Wait, how is it 266? 2,606. The only thing Julia knows about her setup, she clicks go live. No, it's not like that. It's like frequency. Where is frequency? It doesn't say frequency. Is it me or it doesn't say frequency? What do we don't know? Oh, the alerts are so small. Oh. Wait. Paolo! Thank you so much for that. Paolo, thank you so much for it. I appreciate you. Appreciate you very much for trying to support me in this very difficult time of my life.
Good morning, G.
I appreciate you for the 5 months. Hai un evidenziatore, devo segnarmi il sushi che... What the fuck? 266 is the frequency. Nice. So we got it. Then what? Digik, first we have to figure it out. Issues with my computer, then we're gonna start work. Then we're gonna start to play. Oh, Korku! Korkunda! Thank you for the prime check, and I have a lot of love for Korkunda. It's their very first time here. Hi! Hello! Welcome in! We already out 5. Okay. Let's see if I can help. Go for it. Most likely your RAM can go to higher speed than 626. You need to change it from BIOS. How do I get to BIOS? My memory is locked. What the fuck is... I know that my memory is locked. Oh, it's so confusing. Don't open the BIOS. I'm not gonna open the BIOS. No. We don't... No. Restart an F2. I'm not gonna do that. Please chat. What the fuck are you saying? Shut up. So... Devi vedere il modello delle due RAM. Quanta velocità massima? There must be 3,200, right? Like, he's going crazy. I like to trigger people like this. A kind of very different kind of stream, yeah. Listen to... Oh, you can also pin it if you want, JJ. Ricky! Why do I not hear shit? Ricky, thank you so much. I don't hear shit. Ricky, thank you so much for the... How many months? 5 months. I appreciate you. Appreciate you so much for being here. We're having a little bit of a struggle right now. Are you good with computers, Ricky? And Ricky, there's also Enk in chat if you wanna say hi to him. Anche Angelo, vedere il test manager e cosa ti occupa così tanta RAM? Oh, wait, we got it. This is where we are. How do I unlock my memory? Now it feels like a therapy session. Chat, how do you unlock your memory? How do we do that? Wait, let me check if I am... Okay, I'm not gonna... Ricky! Ricky, what the fuck? Ricky, what the fuck? Ricky is Ricky. Ricky, thank you for the 10 gifted ones. What the fuck is that? Thank you so much for that. You crazy! You're gone crazy! 1 extra pomo? No, not extra pomo. Ricky, thank you so much for the 10 gifted. What the heck? This is not Ank stream. This is not. No, Ank, help me out. Hank, help me out. Tell me, what do I have to do? Chat, today is your day to shine. You have your own opportunity to backseat. Backseat. Ricky, thank you so fucking much for those 10. So can I see love for Ricky going crazy for the freaking 10? Shit. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. A sudden shock can unlock your memory. Nice. Thing is that you have the run OBS as admin. That's fine. Okay, pretend that I did it. Pretend I did it. Okay, next. I don't want to close OBS again. Next. Next on the list. Done. I don't hear sounds anymore. I don't know. Chat, we're going crazy. Wait, restart audio engine. Did I unplug? Oh, I unplugged it. Now I'm so focused on the fact that things are not gonna happen, that things are not working, and it's just because I unplugged some professional streaming shit. Okay, now I hear everything. On the BIOS thing, go to RAM, BIOS enable XMP, but they're saying that to never go to BIOS. They're saying to not go to BIOS. Okay, fixed it. Next, Anka. Next. I did it. I did. But the point, like, Anka, I'm saying like I did it because like it has worked all the time. It has always worked. Always worked. Always worked. And I didn't change anything, you know? You played Valorant on another channel like 4 months ago and didn't like. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Pins are annoying, are they? Then. What else? Jeff, yeah, I think that the problem was like when I updated the computer. I updated Windows and no, I'm not gonna bring Anka on Discord. What's the problem today? So many. We know that the bottleneck right now is that I have a speed of 2666, 2666, yeah. And it should be at least 3200, you know? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Something happened on the software settings. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Something happened on software settings. Spegni riaccendi. What? Is Anka like writing like a full message, a full long message right now? Is that what he's doing? It's like saying your Ferrari has a stain on the seat and so it got a 10. Isn't it like that's they have a limit on? It's like saying, isn't it? I thought it meant like saying, oh, my Ferrari has a limit on the speed at 100, so I cannot go 150. Just open the window and scream. If we go into BIOS, we will never get out. Oh shit! No, okay, I don't want to do that. This BIOS is scary. No, Chad, I'm not gonna go into BIOS. They're scaring me. You're scaring me. My memory got in who cares? OBS plus and again includes your computer. I will not guide you inside of BIOS. No. I don't wanna go into BIOS. Skip BIOS. Don't read those messages. At least we have good music. We already uninstalled all the graphic things. Should I? Maybe I should remove some space. What else, Anka? Stop that! Stop! Oh my god! I swear. Give me other solutions. Other solutions. Okay, chat. No more talks about BIOS. Let's do this exercise. Let's do this exercise, chat. This exercise is called problem solving. This exercise is called problem solving. Imagine we are in a situation where we have all of these problems. Everything is lagging for no reasons, all right? Everything is lagging. We did an update. We cannot go to BIOS because Computer doesn't go there. And we cannot run OBS as admin. What do? We cannot do these two things. What do we do? Stop it. What do we do? You reset the PC. It's not it. Because I changed many times. I turned off and on the computer many times. I changed the video settings in Valorant already. I did not change antivirus. We go to bed. Clean install Windows. What the fuck? Buy a new computer. Thank you. Buy a new computer. Buy a new PC. What do we do to the drunken sailor? We throw it in the water. You throw the PC out of the window, alright? Alright? I'm not gonna turn it on and off. What do you mean I am triggering you? You are triggering me. We can cry and pray. I like it. I like it. I'm not, look, even when I'm not, look at this. Even when I'm not capturing the game, it starts lagging. Because when I have the game open, it starts lagging. If I have the game not open, it's okay. Pera, I need you. Can you please come here? Pera, come here. We fucking need you. We need a little bit of cuddles. Come here. Pera, please. I'm asking you. I have a need. Kato, come. Pera. Come. Come on. I have a lot of garbage inside my PC? Wait, what? Diego! Pera is the IT guy. Yes. Va bene. Vieni qua. Nice. Diego, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for the 5 months with the Prime. We have Pera. Io ti scongiuro, prova a guardare SBS senza darmi magari se c'è... People, it doesn't change much. Oh my god, I'm gonna punch you in the face. I love you so much, but I'm gonna punch you. So, I have to change this song. Check the system configuration. Okay, listen, this is a newbie in chat. I trust them. As what was her name? Chiara helped us with the cookies. MW is gonna clutch this. Check the system configuration settings. Click start. Type. Wait, what do I have to type? I am hiding it. Type ms config. Okay. I trust them, chat. I trust them. They're gonna burn my computer. In the search programs and files box. And then click misconfig in the program list. In the system configuration window, click. Wait, I'll show you. So if we get hacked, we're all in together. Click advanced options. In the system... Bro, you're missing out something. There is no advanced options. I'm sorry. MW, you did not clutch this. Sag. On the boot tab? Oh. Okay, sorry. You were sorry. I think. What the fuck happened? Wait, Anki sending me messages? Who sent me crying stuff? Who sent me the crying stuff? Armita! Wait. Yes, I'm gonna... Let me read the DMs that Ank sends me. You're stupid. No, I'm joking. He didn't. Running MVS as admin allows it to detect dedicated GPU resources to itself, so a game running at max FPS will not steal GPU. Okay. I'm gonna restart the stream, but I need you all to stay here, alright? You all have to stay here. Wait, what do I wait? What? I'm waiting. I'm what? What, Egg? I'm here. Hands up. My hands are up. My hands are up. What? What do I have to do? What? What? Wait, what? Egg. I'm imagining Egg right now in his room being like super angry, extremely angry, typing. Do you know how to actually run the thing as admin? I right click on the thing of OBS and I do run as admin. I right click on the OBS logo and I do run as admin. I'm not that dumb. Right? Okay. So you know. Okay, I know that I'm dumb, but not that much. Alright, so I need you to count, okay? Count from. My goal is 75 seconds. This will take me 75 seconds, alright? 75 seconds. So I need you to start from now